an impact. Chase your dreams and face those things that hold you back. I told you that you can do it. Put your mind to it, fine tune it, define movements, hustle and motivation. There's no debate in this melanation is elevation.
Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your man Royalty. We're here today, and I'm back with another podcast episode. We have two special guests today from the Social Psycho podcast. We have Boonie and Brent. I really appreciate y'all coming on.
No problem. You know, y'all our cousin podcast. So
For real, we
gotta come visit sometimes.
Yeah, we in the same family of podcasts. So I want to welcome y'all to another episode of the Raw Educated Analysis of Life podcast. Lay the Bae will be back, but you know, she's having some technical difficulties with moving. Nobody likes moving. Moving's not fun. So
right. Hard process.
Yeah, so it's all good. Today we're going to be talking about something different. It's one of those things that people say that you shouldn't talk about. Now, they say there's two things that you shouldn't talk about in regular conversation. You know, it's politics and what's that other thing?
Religion.
Yeah, you know. But we're going to do that today anyway, because I'm a rebel and I don't care.
So am I.
So I want to bring up a story and ask people what they think about it. I'm going to tell this story in a different way. So you have a mother and a father who decide to test their child, who's grown, by the way, and see which parent they love more. See if they're going to turn on this parent. They throw all kind of things at them. Well, the mother says, the father says, okay, you can do it. The mother is taking things away from the child. I'm going to take your house. Okay? You still love me? I'm going to take your car. You still love me? I'm going to take your house. You still love me? Over and over. You would think this is like, thinking about it from the outside perspective, it's immature, right?
Yes, and a little toxic. Maybe a little narcissistic.
You think about it, that's the story of Job. That is literally what happened. God and the devil, God and the child got into an argument and said, which one is going to, which one's going to win? In the end, it still was messed up for Job. And everybody don't talk about that. Well, he got everything back. I said, well, you don't think about it in a logical way. Yeah, you can get a house back. You can get a car back. You can get material things back. Right. But you can never replace, okay, he was married to somebody. He lost his wife. He lost his kids. Like, you can't get those things back. I don't care if you get another 5 kids and you lost 2 kids. You're still going to remember those 2 kids. You're going to be happy. Right. Yes, this is great. I have 2 more kids. 2 more kids.
Can't replace kids. No.
And
having more kids isn't going to replace the ones that you had.
So, like I said, the topic of the session today is religion and how a lot of times it's misleading, and especially in our community, the Black community, we're taught to think a lot of times it's just Christianity.
Right.
It was so ingrained in me. Like, I don't know how y'all grew up, so I wanted y'all to tell me how y'all grew up, and I could share how I grew up in the church afterwards. What, were y'all raised Christian or what?
Basically, yeah, Christian. At first, like, we went to, like, because we lived in King Street, which is like the bigger town that we live in or whatever. So we went to a holiness church, which is pretty much like, the typical, the church that you hear all of the stories about, the typical shouting, the speaking in tongues, church all day from 8 a.m. to sometimes 8 p.m.
Yeah.
All of that. Like, the community is involved. They have events and stuff and you just in church all the time. And I was young, but I remembered a lot because I do have memories as early as 2 years old, but it started off with the holiness church. So I grew up going to church and, being a kid and not knowing what was going on, the loud music, the shouting, outbursts and stuff like that that was just coming out of nowhere. And I ain't gonna lie, it was traumatic. I remember a time when like it was me, my mama, and my aunt. I don't remember exactly how old I was. And this aunt was like my mom's husband's sister. So we were there and we were just standing up. They was I think if I'm not mistaken, singing. And like we just standing up. My hands is on the back of the pew, whatever. On the one that's in front of me. She's standing to my left. And like I'm just, listening to the music. And next thing I know, like she just hitting me on my hand. And she just kept doing it. And then I look up, I'm like, what going on with you? Like, why you touching me or whatever? And then she just like busts out and starts shouting and going crazy. And I'm just so confused because you just was good. Like, what's happening? Like, that definitely scarred me. But then years later, we started going to a Baptist church, which is our family's church, basically. Which is a lot less active. Like, it's kind of boring if you expect a show.
Yeah.
But I didn't, but it's kind of boring if you do, because they sing, the preacher preaches, but it's not a performance. You know what I mean? It's more because it's led by a lot of older people, like old people. So they ain't doing all that stuff. So I went from that environment to like this chill environment, which was better, but we still went to church a lot. Still, we were the Bible school, we at Sunday school, we going to, the regular service. And we were like the only kids too.
Oh
Like it was just
wow.
me and my brothers, and then like the Bible study teacher and like her son. It was just us. And my grandma would make us go every Wednesday. I hated it like so much.
What about you, Brent?
I grew up conservative Christian, if you want to call it that. Like my mom was Presbyterian. That's the denomination I identify with because I joined the Presbyterian church. That's the church I grew up in the most. And my dad's Baptist. So I wasn't I've never experienced, the shouting and the prayer relays and the falling out, the praise dancing and all of that stuff until I got older. And I was dating this young lady who, like, Boonie was in the holiness church, and I just went with her to it, and I just had a complete culture shock. Like, oh, wait a minute, like, what's going on here? Like, I just wasn't used to it. I wasn't used to people falling out and rolling around and running around and stuff like that. Like, I literally was in church with my hand on my gun because I didn't know what was getting ready.
These niggas wilding out up here. I don't know what's going on.
Like, come on, like, and it didn't dawn on me until later on. Like, okay, this is how they worship, I guess. But I just wasn't familiar with that. I just grew up very conservative. You know, vacation Bible schools in the summertime, all the neighborhood kids and stuff like that would come. They would either go to a vacation Bible school was fun.
That joke was lit.
I used to be lit though, for real.
Bible school was lit. And then I used to split time between my hometown of Greeleyville and my mom's hometown of Alcaloo. So that's where I spent the majority of my time. But when I went on my own spiritual journey, because I was an atheist for about 5 years. I didn't I didn't really believe in any faith or denomination and stuff like that because I realized that organized religion was a joke. And that's when I started expanding my horizons, looking into the other three Abrahamic religions, and started looking into Pan-Africanism, voodooism, just other religions and stuff that I was not accustomed to. And my faith brought me back to my my roots, and I grew up in, which was Presbyterian, so that's what I identified as the most. And when I joined the church back in 2015, I pay my tithes, listen to the sermon, and I go on about my business. I don't really go to other denominations and stuff because I'm what you call an observer. When I go to that type of stuff, I'm not there to listen for the word. I'm there to observe how other people react. I want to see who's the real.
Same.
So that's my experience as far as that.
I grew up in a Baptist church. In my household, church was not an option. Well, it was because my parents met at church. They met at the church that I grew up in. So my dad was from Virginia, so he grew up in the, he was going to church a lot. My mom grew up in a church in California, so he was in the military. Just so happened to come to California and visit a church where he met my mom. And then the first house they moved into an apartment after I was born, and then the first house that they lived in was a house that was given to couples at the church. It was called the enrichment house. It was literally on church grounds. So I don't remember a time when I was not going to church. Like church was, you better go. Like I could, you know how parents keep trying to go, I'm sick.
Yeah.
You're gonna sick your butt up in the church. So it was not an option for me, but as opposed to other churches, it's more conservative too. Baptist is very, that not that much hooping and hollering. There was one lady I remember in church every week. She used to, I think she timed it when I think about it. She would have a shout at the very end of praise and worship, and it was just like the same thing. She was just, and it'd be a different song, but it'd be like almost the same time every service. Jesus. I was just like, and I look over just like every Sunday. And so like my first experience was children's church, which I had my first kiss in children's church. Shouldn't have been kissing nobody, but I asked the girl, I go into detail in my book about it, that's gonna be released soon, but about how I kissed her, and the rest of the service is a blur to me because I didn't even care about being in there. But then I after that, like it was, our church was interactive. It had a really big children's ministry, so we were doing plays. We had to do dances, and anybody that knows me that knows I can't dance to save my life. But the lady there, I do respect her a lot because she believed in kids. She believed that we could do stuff, and she would, you better practice over and over. And so to the time where I was sleeping in the church for all day. I think my parents got a win out of it. Actually, it was summertime and they get to do whatever they want and drop us off at church at 7 a.m. Didn't have to come pick us up till 6 or 7 at night. I was like, that's a win for y'all. When I didn't even start to question anything until I got much older, because it was blasphemy to me to even think there was any other way of thinking. Like I thought that this is the way that it's supposed to be. There's no other way. Even when I went to other churches, it was usually churches that are related to mine. Or, I went to a church one in Virginia when I was like, I want to say 8 or 9, and that was the first different experience I had, where we was in church all day in this hot church where we was all up in there sweating, and the pastor kept saying, "I'm about to wrap up." And then I was just like, okay, we're about to eat. And you can smell the food. Like, and the church started at like 9 or 10 in the morning. So we all sitting there and it's like about to be dinner time, like 5 or 6. And I'm just like, I'm getting hungry. About to finish. The sun go down. I'm like, I'm hungry. Finally, it ended up, that was my first experience with like the Deep South, church, where it was something different. But like I said, when I got older, I started to separate from it because things didn't add up to me. We're supposed to be this, loving people. You preach Jesus is love, God is love, but why aren't these people here showing that? Right. Why aren't they showing what they're talking about? That did not resonate with me at all. And then I got a little older, where I want to ask you guys this question too. What was the worst experience that you guys had in a church? So I would tell my story, then I want you guys to tell yours. The worst experience I ever had at a church was I was homeless and I ended up in Kentucky. Don't ask me how, but I ended up in Kentucky and I was at a homeless shelter and they were deciding to take people to church. And so I went to the church and I was like, okay, I'm used to going to church. It was weird the second I stepped in, like you could see people walking around in the church and they had like kind of looked like hoods over their head. It could have been a towel, but they were walking around in a circle mumbling like, touching the seats and stuff in the church. And I'm like, what are they doing? Okay. So we sit down and I listen to the message. It's like a, a mixed church, but if I had to guess, it's probably more white than black. And I'm like, this is getting a little sketch to me. Like, so the preacher preach, I'm listening. The message was not great or bad. It didn't really stand out to me. But afterwards, the guy that took us, it was time for altar call, and he kind of nudged us to the people that came to go up front, go get prayed for. And he was like, "Are you saved?" Mind you, I got saved at 5 years old, and not by now. That's one thing my parents didn't force on me. I actually was an inquisitive. I was an inquisitive kid, so I asked, "Why do we go to church every Sunday? Why?" And they explained it to me, and their explanation made sense. So I was like, "Well, how do I become a Christian?" And I literally, like, it was like the movies. Like, I literally did the sinner's prayer with me and everything at 5 years old. So I'm like, I am saved, and I've been baptized. And so they were praying for me, and it's like, "Have you been saved?" And I said, "Yeah." Have you been baptized? And I said, "Yeah." "Were you baptized in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit?" I got baptized when I was like 7. I can't remember. Well, if you don't know, I don't know. And then immediately somebody came from behind me and put his hand on my back while the other person was praying for me in the front. And I'm like, what's going on here? "Have you ever spoken in tongues?" I said, "No." They said, "You're not a Christian then. You got to speak in tongues." And it was like, "We're going to pray for this man." And all of a sudden, everything diverged into me. Like, everything converged onto me. Everybody was looking at me. I'm just like, you need to speak in tongues. This man is going to be saved today. Man's hand went from the back of my back to my neck. And he's just like, "You can do it in Jesus' name, in Jesus' name." And I swear I felt so bad for a long time after this. I said,
Had to force that one up.
That's all they be doing anyway. You was right.
And he's like, "You see that? That's a sign from God." I was just like, yes, he took his hands off me. Thank you. That was the worst experience ever. I was just like, this is not church. I never went back ever. You could go ahead and tell us your worst story, Brent.
My only worst story really is when I became self-aware that demons walk in church like everybody else. That's the only thing. That's the only traumatic thing I can say, because my dad's father told him that, "Son, if you go in a church looking for anything other than God, you gonna find it." And when I became it didn't resonate. It didn't resonate with me when I was a kid, but as I got older, I went, "Oh!" It's like the aha moment, the light bulb clicked in, because the same people that I would see in church, condemning, condoning, wanting to send people to hell and all that type of stuff, they were out doing the same things and stuff like that they were talking about, like other people. Like, that made me realize, okay, you're a hypocrite.
Yep.
A lot of times they be doing it on 10 too. Like, you doing extra more than the regular sinner.
Yeah, like I remember when I was in college, I had gone to this church, and I can't remember the name of it to save my life, but a friend of mine and stuff like that invited me to a strip club, and I said, "All right, cool, I'll come out to the strip club." And I'm a college kid, I'm broke. He was bouncing at the door. He let me in. I had $40. That's all I had. And in walks one of the deacons and stuff like that from the church. And I was like, okay, then, then judge him, then think anything of it. But when he was in there making it rain, the first thing I said, "This got to be the congregation money."
Your ties went to the wrong place, bro.
And look, he was in there. I mean, like, you would think that he was a damn dope boy, just got off at 3 o'clock in the morning, just want to spend some money at the club. So, I was like, all right. So, that's when everything started to make sense with, the teachers and stuff that of my dad and stuff when it came to that type of stuff. So, and I just became more self-aware that's why now when I go to church, I'm only listening to one thing. I'm gonna pay my tithes, listen to the word, and I'm going about my business. I don't do all the socializing and the fraternizing and stuff like that with people because people try to find a way inside of your life for no other apparent reason than they just want to be nosy.
Or to use you.
Yeah, use you and gossip about you. Because church folks, some of the most gossipy people you ever want.
Manipulative too.
Yeah, absolutely. Like they stir more shit than like, like it's crazy. And then when you call them out on it, they look at you like you the problem.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like I dated a young lady who said, "We got to go to church. We got to go to church." And so I went to church and stuff like that, no problem or whatever. And we were going to church. But she ended up cheating on me and stuff. And I'm like, okay, so why am I still with you and stuff like that? God said that God told me that you're going to give me another chance and that you knew that and that you know that the flesh is weak. I looked at her and I said, bitch, bye.
Lying on God like that.
Yeah, I'm like, let me line on. He had nothing to do with that. You ain't
Exactly. That's the church people's favorite thing to say though. God told me.
God told me. God said.
I need to
yeah.
figure out where you're getting this information from because I need that direct line if you got it.
Exactly.
So as I got older, I started meeting people from, who study Pan-Africanism, Islam, voodoo, people who are atheists and stuff. Some of the nicest people you ever want to meet. They were not judgmental, they were not condemning Jewish people. They were just good people. They didn't, and I'm not saying all Christians are like that, not by a long shot, but you just got some who are just hell bent on just trying to prove themselves right in what they believe in. That is blasphemy. Like you can't sit here and say and stuff like that you've never experienced anything other than what it is you're accustomed to. That's not intellect to me. So yeah.
You can go ahead, Boonie.
For me, I can't really say bad experiences, but I'm gonna just talk about like this church that I used to. I ain't gonna say used. Yeah, I went to that church a few times, but my cousin, my aunt, and them used to work for like this group home or whatever. And the group home was like where they lived. Like they bought some land or whatever. They built this like group home or whatever. They were like getting troubled kids and stuff like that coming to the group home or whatever. And at first my mom didn't used to let me go stay with them when they was there because it was like they got a lot of those troubled boys and girls and stuff over there. I don't want you to be around them because I never know what might happen. And then I turned 18, so I started going over there more because now I'm older. Now I'm able to control myself or whatever. And like whenever Sunday would come, like I would go like Friday and then plan to go home Sunday, but Sunday would come, I would shoot my mama that text. Like, hey, they get ready for church. Yeah, I know you ain't want me to go to that church. You gonna come get me? And she would come right there, pick me up. So for a little while, I wasn't going to the church, but then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just see what it is. I was hearing a lot of rumors about it, like how like people talking about people was like crawling on their hands and knees and barking like a dog. A lot of crazy stuff that I wanted to see. So I went. So I started going.
You wanted to go see the train wreck, huh? It was like, yeah, let's see.
I was like, I need to see if this really what it is. So I started going. And like it definitely was cultish. It was very because it was the group home. Then you got all the people from the group home going to the church. They definitely had like a community where everything was flowing. You know what crazy about people like that? They know how to unite a community of people to bring together for their cause. They make it seem so easy, but it's a lot of manipulation that goes into that. But my aunt was very much, they called the preacher and his wife mother and father. Like, no, daddy, because we don't say father, mom and daddy. So yeah, like everybody calling them mama and daddy or whatever. And then my cousin is staying with their daughter. My cousins, because there's two of them, were staying with their daughter. Because they had like this little, I guess you could say compounds that they built, and they kind of like were together. So like it's hallways separating like different like apartments kind of. And they had their own apartment because they were old enough, and their mom moved out and got her a house in the same area, and they had their own apartment. So I would go visit, and like the girl, the preacher's daughter, they were calling her mama. I'm like, why y'all calling her y'all mama? Like, y'all mama cool with that? Cause my mama wouldn't be cool with me calling somebody, especially somebody younger than her, my mama. And like they would call her mom. It's a lot of stuff, because I could go and tell these stories for days, but I'm gonna try to, make it short. But like they would call her mama, and like they like kind of like she raised them, but she didn't, because they grown at this point. So what's the point? But so I remember we went to church for, what was it? The New Year's Eve. And you know how you go to church for bringing the New Year's, you go for New Year's Eve, and do whatever, and then they have the food and all that. So we went for that, and there was this prophet that was there. And everybody was kind of like excited. It's more people, because I've had it going a few times up to this point. More people there today, because most people be at church on New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve and Easter, it gonna be packed. But like they had more people there because she was coming. And I've never seen a prophet before, because like I said, most of my life was spent in a Baptist church, so we didn't really do a lot of that stuff. But this was my first time seeing a prophet. So, we there, and she's at the front of the church prophesizing to people, or what, in front of everybody, prophesizing to people or whatever. And so she gets to my cousin's boyfriend. And I forgot where he was standing or whatever. I think he was like at the back of the church or whatever. And like she like telling like basically his business, calling out specific things, talking about how she can see that he's addicted to weed and all types of stuff like that. Obviously something his mama told her about him or whatever. Because also you could pick anybody out the crowd and say that. But like she was just telling him like, you have this addiction, like you're addicted to weed or whatever. And she just was, reading people's lives and telling her whatever God wanted her to tell them or whatever. But it was fake. Obviously shade though what she was talking about, but they was treating her like she did. And like I'm just standing there, like anytime I would go to church with them, I would always feel like it was an out of body experience. Like I would just be standing there just watching everybody, just the things that they do, how they react into certain things. I'm trying to think, did they used to shout like that? I think they did. Praise dance, shouting, all that stuff or whatever. But like she just was going through everybody and telling them, like my cousin looking at me like, you going up there? I'm like, no, I'm not going up there. We crazy. Because one thing about my mama, even though we used to go to church a lot, she never let us get baptized because we were little. We were kids. That's something she wanted us to decide for ourselves. We didn't do communion. A lot of that, like ritualistic stuff that they do in church, we didn't do that. She would tell us when they call you up to the front, sit down. You don't go there. You don't let nobody pray over you. You don't do all that stuff. So I was like, no, I'm not going up there or whatever. So her brother went up there. And like he just go up there, he crying, he's talking about all the stuff that he's done, like drugs and all the stuff that has happened to him. And she's kind of like consoling him. This is my first time ever seeing my cousin like cry, and like the way he was acting was different. It's my first time seeing him like this or whatever. So he like confessing, basically talking about all the stuff that he's done wrong, but he doing it in front of everybody. And to me, that's not how prophesizing is supposed to be. I would think that you would do it in private, but she wasn't. But it just was the way that they were responding to her. I was seeing a lot of them acting in a way that I had never seen them act, like crying and falling out crying and all of this stuff. It was weird to me. So I just kind of like sat back and I just was watching. Anytime I would go there, that's how it would be. Nothing I didn't see the crazy stuff that everybody was saying happen because I didn't go a lot, but I would go sometimes. So I ain't really see nothing happen. And that aside from when I was telling y'all when I was little, my aunt catching the Holy Ghost and shouting and traumatizing me. That was that was the weirdest thing that happened to me at church. But like their church was just it was definitely cultish. You know, they end up later on having to close the group home or whatever because they found out a lot of stuff. I ain't gonna tell their business on here, but it was weird.
So I should have known that this bad experience that happened when I went to this facility. It was in Vegas, and I think I told y'all. I told Boonie and what was her name? And Van, and who else was on there when after the podcast that I was on?
India.
And India. I told y'all about the story where I ended
yeah.
up in Vegas, but I didn't like go into this part of the story. So I ended up going to this church facility. I was homeless, and they came by picking up people, which is a bad sign already.
They did that too.
It is like y'all wanna come stay here. We got a home for y'all. It's and everything's fine. I'm like, that sounds good to me. I'm 18 years old. I'm 19. I'm 19 years old. I'm like, yeah, I got a place to stay and some food to eat. And I get there and it's awkward at first, but I'm like, okay, they have like bunk beds and rooms for people to sleep in, and there's men and women on both sides of this. It's a house, like just probably I want to say upper middle class house, like probably 5 bedrooms, spacious and everything. I meet the pastor, and then the first day he does like a little church service every night in his living room. So service went by, and I'm like, okay, this is okay. And then afterwards, I'm starting to hear like rumblings. The name of the ministry, and I don't care about exposing them. Their name was Crystal Light Ministries, and I'm like, how did that name come about? It's like, oh, you didn't hear? People would start telling me.
Like Friday 13th?
No, Crystal.
Yeah, no, Crystal Lake.
Yeah, Crystal Light. It was named after his wife, but he kicked his wife out of the program. I was like, wait, what?
His wife's name was Crystal?
Yeah. So it was named after his wife, and he kicked her out of the program. Like he started it with her, and I'm just like, that's wild, bro. Okay. I'm like, this is weird. I'm like, okay.
And he just dismissed her. Like,
yeah, like you gotta bounce.
You gone, bitch.
He's out of here. I was like, okay.
I'm keeping the name though.
Right. I was just like, okay, it might be just a rumor though. So one of the guys that was the pastor's right hand man was one of they called him deacons there. Yeah, he was his right hand man. So I was talking to this girl there. She was like a couple years older than me, but she had a couple of kids. Me and her was just talking, like in her room at night one night, and we just was really like, talking, and she just was telling me how she feels so uncomfortable here, and one of the deacon, the right hand man, always comes in her room, make her feel uncomfortable, and I'm like, there's something off about this. So we talking, and then she was like, you're the first person I could just talk to, and I feel open enough to be myself. Like she said, the only reason I'm staying here is because this is the only place I can find for my kids and I to stay and be safe. And I was just like, dang, for real? Like, it's like this bad. A few minutes later, right-hand man, Deacon, jumps into the room and was just like, what are you doing in here? You're making her uncomfortable. I was like, nigga.
He was cock blocking.
Yeah, I'm just like, you need to leave.
Pretty much.
Yeah. I think he was mad because he saw that she was like, even before that, she was talking to me. I was the only person that she would talk to. And I think he's starting to get jealous. And the long story short, the program was just full of like things like that happening, weird stuff. And I ended up leaving, and I found out years later, I had to look it up. Like actually last year I looked it up. I found out they got accused of tax evasion. They got accused of molestation happening there. And the program shut down, and it reopened a year later, and then they shut down again permanently after that because they got exposed for art. It was on the news and everything. I was just like, I knew it was something fishy going
I
on
hope
there.
nothing happens to her. I hope she was able to leave too.
I hope so.
But it was the same way at that church that they would like pick people up off the streets and stuff. I remember we had went to Myrtle Beach and like we just was riding and we like, what going on? And my aunt was like, yeah, mama and daddy said we had to pick somebody up. I don't know if they knew this person or what, but he was homeless. We had to pick him up or whatever. We on our way back from vacation and we like, what is you talking about, bro? You about to put a stranger in here with us?
Right.
Like, what's wrong with you? We don't know this person.
They don't add
And so
up.
she picked him up, and then years later, she ended up dating him. Like they would like get people and put them together in relationships and stuff just to
Oh hell no.
they'll put them in relationships. They was having relationships with the boys in the group home, and that's why they got shut down. They ended up moving and then trying to open it again, and I think they ended up getting shut down over there too.
I'm
It was
chime in on this right quick. R.E.A.L, no, Boonie pretty much knows my line of work. I'm gonna tell you a conversation I had with a pedophile. He used to work for me at a previous institution that I was at, and I was working my late night work, running the law library and the leisure library.
used to work with you.
Yeah, he was hired. He was hired. He was an inmate, but he was hired on our deep work detail.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was a paid inmate. So I'm sitting in the law library, and we just started having a casual conversation. He told me out his own mouth and stuff like that, like how they are. They hide in plain sight. He was like, they get in civil servant jobs, law enforcement, teachers, religion, nursing, try to be, goody two shoes type roles and stuff like that to hide, their predation. And one of the guys that he told me about was a high ranking official and stuff like that in the Catholic Church that just happened to got extradited to the prison that I was at from, Ireland. He was at our institution for a little while. And when I was listening to you and Boonie and stuff at the top, that's what it sounds like to me. Like
Yeah.
a lot of predators and stuff like that, like they hide amongst us in plain sight to keep whatever type of um uh ring they got going on and stuff like that. Like it's sick, it's nasty, it's
That's all
disgusting.
sick.
And
It's
as I got older, I understand why my mom and dad, we ain't doing no damn sleepovers. No, this person ain't coming over to the house. No, you ain't going over there. No, where are you? Like,
Same.
and I was just like, wow. Like, and that's basically my conversation with a pedophile. He was just giving me game.
I
He
got
was
a I got
telling
a I got a question. When you did you know that he was a pedophile before he started working with you?
fuck yeah. The yard and stuff like that that yard was a dropout yard.
Uh
That yard they were allowed to walk on. Like if you were an inmate and stuff like that, and you were a sex offender, you were told, during intake that this is a yard where sex offenders can walk. Like you gotta kind of protect them because if you don't, you got bloodshed every day. Like we got yards, man, like designated straight for sex offenders.
yeah, it's the same thing in California too. They either go to the SNY yard or they call it like a dropout type yard where they
Yeah, and then it ain't, and you know what's so crazy? It's not small numbers. These is in the hundreds, even a couple of thousands. And matter of fact, a lot of cops, pedophiles. Matter of fact, we got one was in Ohio. We got a former high school principal who's a pedophile.
did it
Um,
did it make
uh,
you uncomfortable to know that you
no,
had to work there?
no. The reason why it didn't make me uncomfortable because they made they fucking mad because I don't play that shit. Like I'm not like Booney and Van and everybody from the podcast calls me the brick wall because of my emotions and my feelings and stuff. Like when I get off and stuff like that from work, I gotta decompress. Like I can't be around anybody. I don't want nobody talking to me. I don't want anybody, saying anything to me. I need a moment to get myself together because if I don't, I'm gonna be snappy at you for no reason.
Right.
But that's just my personality to get myself in the game mode when I walk inside the institution. So, I've had conversations with a lot of people from all walks of life, different religions, different cultures, different backgrounds. And, my my tutor, who wasn't pedophile, he got busted with one of the largest, Ponzi schemes and Southern history before before Madoff came into the picture. He told me all the time. He was like, "Hey, Kennedy, I'm gonna be real with you, Mr. Kennedy. Like, I was cleaning all of my money through the church." He said, if you fail at anything, he said, if you fail at anything else in life, become a pastor because they make a lot of money.
A lot of people do that too. A lot of get
Yeah,
right out of prison or something and go right and be a pastor. My life
Exactly.
has changed.
Because
that's
it's an easy con. It's an
Yeah.
easy con because all you got to do is figure out how to. They like people to talk, and you convince everybody in that church that you not who you are. Because the church is about so-called forgiveness, and I'm like, I had an experience where somebody I knew that was a pedophile in church. I found out later on that he was. I grew up with this guy, probably one of the most talented musicians I ever met in my life. Like when I first got to the church in San Bernardino, California, and I met him, I watched him go from the piano to the organ to the drums, like nothing. Like he was just playing around. He was like, do 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 do.
You
Get to the
sound like
organ,
my
start
brother.
playing,
His
and then get to
daddy.
the drums and start like, and then he get up there and start singing. I'm like, this man is just a talent. Like he is amazing. And so him and I ended up writing the the school song that was a church school. We write the school anthem together. Like I wrote the lyrics and he composed the melody for it. And years later, I found out he's still going to the church and everything. And he well, first off, I heard that he went to jail for touching a girl, but I couldn't confirm it at the time. I'm like, no, not him. Are you serious? Like I haven't seen him in a couple of years, but I really
It
why is he
always be the nah hymns. They be
right?
the hymns.
Right. I said, why is he still there at the church store? I'm like, the pastor should have not let him come back, right? And they say, yeah, but he let him come back. So after that, he went to another church in probably like about an hour away, and he became the leader of the ministry of music, specifically over the children's part. It came out afterwards that he was talking to one of the choir, the girls in the choir, picked her up from school and got accused of doing inappropriate things with her. I don't want to trigger anybody, but it was bad. And I'm just
dude.
like,
I ain't mean to cut you off, real. I deal with it every day, man. Like one of the biggest mistakes that a lieutenant, this was a lieutenant, he told me specifically. He said, Kennedy, do not read um their legal transcripts or anything like that. But because I'm a teacher in the Bureau of Prisons, I'm required to go in and look at the educational background. But their transcripts and all and their incidents and stuff like that are all in their documentation.
mm,
Fucked up and messed around and read one or two, man, I had to call out of work for the next couple of days, bro. I had to get my head together because I wouldn't be able to do my job and function and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Because I was gonna be very discriminatory against them. And they already got tried and convicted and stuff. So I can't, as a professional, I can't just punish them and persecute them even further than what they already have been. Because you got two types. Let me tell you, I hope all the viewers and stuff they understand what I'm going to say. You got two types of sexual predators. You got the ones who are remorseful and terrified of everything, and then you got the ones who are just cocky and arrogant, as if like what they did, there's no issue with it. They're the ones and stuff like that are trying to push the narrative that it's okay and normal and stuff like that for me and as an adult to be attracted to a kid. Like I've met serial rapists. Like I got at my previous spot, he was serial rapist. This man, like y'all talk about homeless people, he was picking them up and stuff with his boyfriend, raping them. Never made the news or anything like that. And he did it over 30 or 40 something times. So, I deal with that every day. That's why I am the way that I am and stuff like that when it comes to certain, things that go on. Like when people are talking to me, I sit back and analyze them. I sit back and listen and see and stuff like that. Okay, what's this person's angle? What are they up to? You know, I'm looking at everything. So I got a little PTSD for working in prison.
It when I found out about the story, to me, it was like all of these people failed because the pastor of the church that he was going to knew about that. So it is your job to communicate that to the next pastor or church that you're going to, that hey, just to let you know, heads up, that man that you're hiring is a sex
But
offender.
church is the place where they go because the whole point, like forgiveness and all of this stuff, and that's why it's such a problem in religion, and they create that environment where people like that can go, and even though they keep doing it, they still welcome because this we got to forgive everybody. And I think that's what makes religion dangerous. The idea that if you're forgiven, if a person is forgiven, they should still be allowed to do this or do that. It's one thing to forgive somebody, but to allow them to have access to people
Exactly.
that they can hurt is another thing.
I truly believe in forgiveness. I believe people can change. I 100%, because I'm not the person that I was 10, 15 years ago. Like Boonie knows some of my story. I'm not that same like wild guy. But you need to set people up for them to win. So I'll put it this way. If somebody's a robber, they rob banks or they steal money, you do not put them in charge of money again. Hey,
Exactly.
you are that's the end of that for you. No, no more. Just like with that situation, okay, he could have changed. Don't put that man in charge of children anymore. You are the furthest thing removed from children. Like, I don't
Not
understand.
only that, I just feel like they don't get to the problem with when it comes to sexual offenders. They never we There's no resolution for that. They've never even tried. They just kind of like they get locked up, they serve their time, they get back out, and a lot of times a lot of them do it again.
Exactly.
The recidivism and stuff like that among sex offenders is extremely high. Like their recidivism rate is way higher than even some of your stone cold killers. Like it's
Yeah.
like most of those guys and stuff like that. It wasn't their first time doing it. It was the first time they got caught.
Excuse me. Yeah.
Like if you look at what you were just talking about with the church and stuff like that, pushing him along to another church without giving them forewarning. They didn't want to bring a bad light to their organization and stuff like that. So that's why they allow him to go on to someplace else. Look at what happened at Penn State with Joe Paterno, a legacy ruined, all because he cared more about the program than protecting kids. And they said that man passed away of X, Y, Z. Nah, he passed away because of a broken heart. Like, we sweep things under the rug and stuff like that. Oftentimes we need to bring them to the light. And
Exactly.
Especially that, because I
Oh,
feel like it's a never ending battle, because nobody has like I've never heard of no therapist, counselor, whatever, trying to create a resolution for people like that. Why are y'all just like, oh, they serve their time, that's it? Because that's something that's I feel like a programming in your brain when you're like that. And a lot of it comes from the miseducation of sex and the way that people view it, the way that people are treated because of it. Like sometimes people, you may have a child or whatever that did something wrong when it comes to sex or whatever, but instead of, you know, making them feel like they're horrible or sweeping it under the rug, we need to figure out how to resolve this
well, the biggest
so it
thing that
doesn't keep happening.
exactly.
well, the biggest thing that I notice in the black church that needs to be exposed is the damn secrets. Like so many secrets. Like black churches and stuff like that will protect secrets amongst, relatives, people in the congregation, like that, and it needs to stop. Because in order for you to really and truly heal, how can you not expose what has been done or wrong to you? Like, I applaud a young lady back where I'm from who I went to school with. I never knew that she was being sexually abused at school by a family friend who was an administrator in his office.
God damn, you might as well drop the names.
got the problem and stuff like that. You know, I ain't gonna do it and stuff like that without her permission and all that type of stuff.
Gotcha.
But it was on Facebook and stuff like that for a long time. And she spoke her piece. And you know, we just got to get to this place and stuff like that where we stop trying to hide things. Hiding things only makes them worse.
I
You
feel
know,
like a lot of time it's because they see the pastor as the everything in these churches. So, oh, he gonna go see pastor. These pastors are not licensed therapists. They are
They
not
aren't.
trained to deal with these kind of things. So he saw a pastor, he better now because he prayed for him. Pastor didn't address none of the issues that was really underlying with this
Yeah,
man.
and that
God put it.
prayer, and God is gonna fix him, and God heal him, bruh. I I believe in God, but at the same time, it's delusional for you to think that whispering on your knees with your hand claps together is going to fix things without you doing anything to help that process. Like prayer, I'm not saying that you shouldn't pray nothing or something wrong with prayer. You cannot, like, the whole manifestation, the prayer, you got to manifest what you want. No, you have to take action in those issues too. You don't just put it out there or speak it, you put action with it. You
It's
can't
fun.
just pray stuff away.
I was like I said, I was raised in the church, and they had this thing called to inspire your heart, which people usually sing a song. Somebody would give a brief message. So I got to do it one Sunday, and my message was from everybody's favorite scripture, which is, "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." And I was like, "There's a misconception." This is when I started to really read the Bible for myself and get an understanding. And people didn't. Everybody was blown away because my thing was, I said, "Does that mean that if you pray about it real hard, God, let me lift this 300-pound weight"? No, you ain't never lift the weights again in your life. You gonna lift up this 300-pound weight because you prayed about it? No,
No.
that's not what it's about. I said that was not what it's about. But y'all want to take context, and I think the whole church, the mothers and everything, was just quiet in there looking at me because they know I was telling the truth. I'm like, you teaching them, but that's not what that scripture was even about.
And that's lazy. It's just an excuse to be lazy and not really do nothing. Oh, I prayed about it. Or I'm gonna pray about it. God gonna fix it. What you gonna do in the meantime?
I'm
If I
laughing
was
because
God, I would be sick and tired of y'all telling me I'm saying I'm gonna fix stuff. You need to get up and help.
Right.
I I was laughing. I started laughing because of what you said and what Real said. It reminded me of that episode of My 600 Pound Life when that doctor and stuff like that was having a conversation with that girl, and that girl say, "If God wanted me to be skinny,
Jesus Christ.
then I would be skinny."
Jesus
And
Christ.
then he said, "I believe in God as well, but this has nothing to do with God. You're just lazy and fat." like you know, like people love to throw in the Bible or Bible scripture when they're doing something wrong. One of the things I hate, like one tattoo I hate above all else is to see the praying hands where only God can judge me. I'm like, nah, bro, everybody can
Bro,
judge.
Everybody
everybody
judging
can.
your ass.
We literally was created with the ability to judge you. Ain't nothing wrong with judging people because that's how you survive, by judging them. If I don't judge nobody, then I ain't gonna know. I'm not aware of the stuff that they're capable of.
In my line of work, yeah, I'm judging you every day, coworkers, people. I'm judging everybody.
All of
Like
us are. Like, people can't lie, be like, I'm not. Yes, you are judgmental. All of us are. It's
Inherent.
ingrained in us.
I don't think there's nothing wrong with the concept of any religion in itself because most religions are peaceful.
yes,
Most
Right.
they
religions
are.
believe in peace, and if that brings you a sense of peace in your heart, I am all for that. It's a problem when you get into this indoctrination because they have the people's favorite scripture is train up a child in the way he should go. No, you should say indoctrinate a child so that they can think the way that you think because it's not teaching them to think for themselves. Critical thinking is not something that you learn inside the church. That is
No, I told you last night how they say the worst thing that human beings have ever acquired is knowledge.
I'm a I ain't mean to cut you off, Boonie, because you're 100% right. Like I love history, I love knowledge, I love studying things. The most powerful entity on the earth at one point in time was the church. If you look at the Catholic Church in particular, and I know there's some views might be Catholic. I'm not attacking y'all religion, but I'm just I'm just speaking facts right now. If they said it was wrong, everybody else went along with it. That's how a lot of other small religions and stuff like that got demonized because of the Catholic Church, because they had so much power and control. Like the Vatican at one point in time was the original gangsters. Like if it didn't fly with if it didn't fly with them, it wasn't gonna fly anywhere. And I'm not saying the stuff like that the whole entire religion is wrong. No, I'm not saying that at all. Because the one thing that I can say that I've noticed and stuff about major denominations like that, you should not allow somebody to have that much power and control over you as an individual.
I reminded of the phrase the absolute power corrupts absolutely. It's always gonna be like that. You get too much power, you're gonna abuse it because nobody's gonna test you. I was just talking to Boonie last night in the Dark Ages with people weren't allowed to read the Bible for themselves because they couldn't read. So they would literally make up stuff until the people woke up in the Golden Age or whatever and was like, that's not what it is. That's not what it said. And people are blindly follow right now. Like, I love the churches where I can see where they're encourage people, go read it for yourself, go study for yourself, because it's not just me saying this. A lot of times pastor says what pastor says is law. Well, pastor said it, so it got to be true.
Bro, they'll read one line and have a whole sermon about one line instead of reading the whole dang on verse.
And then if you look, then like people always want to throw out the Illuminati this, the Illuminati that. The Illuminati actually was a group of free thinkers that went against the teachings of the church, but they got demonized for their free thinking. You know, they were challenging the church's authority about what it is and stuff like that they known to exist. Like, okay, you put it in the book. You said this is right, but what if this is not right? What if this is wrong? And that's where they got demonized and scrutinized and stuff like that about. Same thing with voodoo. Same thing with Islam. You know, it just had a lot of power. A lot of power. A lot of power. You might like even like what it is and stuff that we're saying tonight, and what I made a comment about. It is going to be somebody that says, "Oh, no." That's not what I'm saying. Like, there's nothing wrong with educating yourself. When you become so emotionally involved and emotionally believing that everything that you hear someone else say is true, something's wrong with you. That's how I feel.
And to expand on that point, like, knowledge being a bad thing makes zero sense, because that's literally, it's innate in human beings to evolve, and the only way we're going to evolve is if we gain knowledge of things. So you are comfortable believing that God doesn't want us to know anything. He doesn't want us to question anything, doesn't want us to know anything. And if it wasn't for Eve biting the apple, we would be better off. If it wasn't for Eve biting the apple, because that story is BS to me, we wouldn't exist. Period.
We would just be living blindly.
If it wasn't for obedience, we wouldn't exist.
I think people wanted they're like, well, things would just be so great in the Garden of Eden.
Wouldn't be here.
We wouldn't know nothing. We would just, people want that type of lifestyle that they don't want to think for themselves. They want somebody to think for them. That's why people gravitate to a lot of these religions, is because they want somebody else to tell them what's right instead of you need to figure it out for yourself. What is your moral compass? You don't, because you could be a great person and be an atheist. It's like you said, Brent, you've met some great people that are atheists. It doesn't make you inherently good because you say I love God. Like, I'm a Christian. You know, like I saw a post about somebody who was like, I was such a terrible person until I met God. No, you still a terrible person if that's the only thing that's stopping you from being terrible. You still a terrible person. Like,
that's true.
It's not gonna fix who you are inside.
Right. But that's and I feel I see a lot of people using God and religion to manipulate people even to this day. Like, that's all if I go online and talk about my experiences and be like how I was delivered from God, you know how much attention that would get?
Oh yeah.
For people, they would eat it up. Like, I could be lying, but they do not care. That's all you got to do. Talk about it. And people believe you. People really don't question you when you say that you believe in God. They don't question it.
You know, I'm sorry, R.E.A.L. I need to cut you off, brother.
You good? Go ahead.
Now, I was just sitting there thinking, like, movies and stuff like that imitate life. And the movie that the movie that just popped in my head was the Book of Eli. Look how hell bent that man who was the villain in the book was hell bent on finding the Bible. He was determined to find the Bible because he knew with the Bible and stuff like that he could use it and stuff like that to control the populace of his town and stuff like that for them to do whatever it is he wanted them to do. Like, the ultimate form of control is mental control. One of my favorite books that I've ever read and stuff like that was written by this Portuguese scholar. I think his name was Paulo Freire. I can't really pronounce it the correct way, but he wrote this book called The Pedagogy of the Oppressed, which is teaching of the oppressed. And then one of his
Paulo Coelho?
No, Freire, not Coelho.
Okay.
But in one of his chapters, he spoke that in order for you to enslave the people, you control their mind. Once you enslave the people by controlling their minds, you can get them to do whatever it is you want them to do. So when I have debates and stuff like that with my Muslim homeboys, my Pan-African homeboys and stuff like that, because I am a Christian and I identify as that, when we go back and forth, I keep saying the same thing over. I'm like, bro, we're not free yet. We can argue about religion later. And that came from the Honorable Minister Farrakhan himself. He was like, why are you arguing about religion when you're not even free? So
honestly, religion helps to enslave.
Exactly. And I hate the fact that they try to vilify one over the other. Like, in today's society, it's easier to vilify a Muslim person because of the Muslim attacks. And I tell people this all the time. More people have been killed in Jesus' name than anybody killed in Allah's name. Because all the conquistadors, everything that the Europeans did to every other nation was in Jesus' name. They were all Christians and Catholics. That was all they took control. Muslims just now starting to show the ugly side of that. The Christianity been doing that for centuries before.
Yeah, but I just want to, just if you look at the three Abrahamic religions, major Abrahamic religions, when it comes to death, destruction, and bodies and stuff, nobody else can compare to that. Especially out through history and stuff like that, like how you said and stuff, like it was murderous. Like there were a lot of wars that broke out over religion and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's true, and that's the same debate I have with all of my homeboys, because we get into these debates, but it's not so much to prove each other right. It's just to
have a conversation.
Yeah.
But a lot of people aren't comfortable enough within themselves to have this because they think that
God is gonna get them.
You're gonna get in trouble for saying this. Like, what kind of God is that? If you get in trouble for questioning, you want to know. I want to know why this has happened. This don't make sense to me. And I was in church before, and they used to tell me, well, that's just the way it is. Yeah. I finally found somebody who said, you know what? Let me find the answer, because I'm not sure. I appreciate that a whole lot more than that's just the way it is.
Right. And to go back to what we was talking about in the beginning, my bad, Brent. The devil, Satan, right? Every hero needs a villain. And like, when you really think about the story, like when it comes to like the Bible and how Satan, the first thing he did was basically disobey God. That's the first offense. That's what he did to get on, I guess you could say, God's bad side, to make him an enemy. He disobeyed him. Then you have the story about Adam and Eve and how Satan convinced Eve to eat the fruit off the tree, was it the tree of life? But yeah, the story about, the God, Satan making Eve eat the apple in the Garden of Eden. Then the story you talked about, Job, and the Satan pops up in different stories in the Bible as the antagonist. But like, I haven't really seen any drastic thing that Satan has done for us to hate him. Like, if the most he's doing is peer pressuring people, because that's really what that is, people into going against God. How many people have done that? And don't nobody hate them?
Everybody want favorite thing to say is the devil made me do it.
No, he did not.
The devil didn't make you do shit. You decided to do that.
It's a crutch. I feel like it's a crutch. You blame everything on Satan, the devil busy and not today Satan or whatever. It's you that's making these decisions. It's you that's having these thoughts or whatever. And like we really hate a whole, I guess you could say person, because we hate a whole person for being an instigator, basically.
Right.
And there are human beings that we know that have done so much worse than that. Yeah, we don't hate them. They're not condemned.
Right.
I just don't understand. But that's something that people never question, because it's like you don't question that's the enemy. Satan is the enemy. The man ain't did nothing.
He and everything, he's the cause of everything bad. When it's just like,
right.
How though? And
I was telling Vandam that I never looked at Satan as being like a person, or like evil being done by Satan and then all good is God. I always looked at it as God creating both of these things, good and evil, and they just exist. I never kind of looked at it like a hero and a villain, and like two people, or I guess you could say a tangible person, basically.
I always looked at the devil more as like a spiritual mindset for me. The reason why I'm saying that is because if you look at the word devil, and you spell it backwards, it means lived. So, you got to live through a little bit of things, and, try to understand, what's going on and stuff like that in life. And, some people just try to condemn everything that they.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like, I've never seen it as like a tangible, like a person, but like rather than like an idea.
Or mindset, yeah.
Right.
Like, I want the viewers to understand, I ain't getting ready to go to no damn satanic church or no shit like that. But, people.
I made me think of something. Boonie and I were talking about yesterday. They said we were talking about Satanists or whatever. And they said, they asked the Satanists, "What do you actually believe in Satan?" They said no. So what do you call somebody who actually believes in Satan? A Christian.
Right.
It's true, because they just doing whatever they want to do. They believe in being happy, pretty much.
Right.
And free thinking. But to the people who go to church, that's the devil. Like, y'all the only ones that really believe in the devil.
So knowledge is the devil.
Right.
When you think about it, that's pretty much what they're telling us.
A lot of people and stuff like that can't get out of their own way of thinking, because that's when that cognitive dissonance and stuff like that comes into play. It
be too much.
Yeah, for some people this is too much. Like when I had a friend and stuff like that question me on my Christianity and my beliefs and stuff like that, I didn't get in my feelings and get mad or nothing. I listened to what it is he had to say. I'm like, you know what, you make some valid points. I don't agree with you, but you make some valid points that I'll look into for my own personal consideration. Because the quickest way to become an atheist is if you read the Bible from front to back and from back to front. Because you be like, okay, this is crazy.
I did. I actually had done it so many times, and I actually tried to live it. And that was when I was telling y'all in my last relationship, one of my issues, one of the things that I was battling when I was younger was religion. Cause like I'm in this terrible relationship and I'm praying all the time. I'm fasting, I'm doing all this stuff, looking for answers to why this is happening. Why am I going through this with this person? And it's just what I was ending up nowhere. And not only that, but like you telling me after this person has done so many bad things to me, I should still forgive them. I should keep giving them a chance. I should still forgive. And it kind of made me go a little crazy. I ain't even gonna lie. And then I was like, what is the point of this? Why am I following something, believing in something that tells me to suffer, basically, stay in situations and suffer? Like, this doesn't make sense. And that's when I started to question things. And it was funny because at first I was the person in a relationship that was like, we need to read the Bible, we need to follow the Bible. And then we switched places. Now, after we broke up, he was trying to convince me that he'd been saved, he's holy, he's different now. so I could get back with him. But I didn't believe it. And we pretty much switched places. Like, now he's holy and we should do everything the Bible say. And I'm like, bro, I don't care nothing about that junk no more. Like, that's not gonna work. Number one, I don't believe you. Number two, I'm good. I'm good on that.
You have to get to a certain level of maturity in life before you are able to understand, especially if you were raised Christian, because what we're talking about right now, this is going to make a lot of people uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And we didn't say anything necessarily disrespectful about the religion itself.
Nope.
We talked about the people that were in it, these pastors who are and I can't stand that, especially people in leadership of anything in leadership, because people follow you. So if you do stuff misleading, like I think of the Bishop Eddie Long situation. His whole church was behind him. I'm like, okay, if your focus is supposed to be on God, that man, it's more than 10 victims or so accusing him of the same thing. Why don't you force that man to step down? We standing behind him.
It's not about God. It's about having someone there, like having a preacher, having a tangible person there that they feels like brings them closer to God. And I feel like in religious and stuff, it don't even be about God, because when you start asking them about their own relationship with God and the things that they do, the practices and all of this stuff that they do to serve God or to build their relationship, they know nothing about that. Their answer is always church. The Bible tells you that you're supposed to have your own relationship with God, but y'all relying on somebody else for that.
Our community, I'm just making an observation. Our community and stuff like that has gotten indoctrinated into this we need a savior complex.
Yeah.
And I don't agree with that, because like, if you read the Bible, any man or woman can go and talk to God. What do I need a middleman for?
Exactly. Say that again.
The point.
Like, why do I need a middleman? Because if I'm a representation of my Lord and Savior, and I have a personality, and I know He has a personality as well, He's not going to be offended by anything that I say or do. So why are you?
Especially if you believe in the Judeo-Christian way of thinking. It literally talks about it in the Bible. The symbol for it was the veil tearing when Jesus died. So that was the signal that you didn't have to go through anybody else. That was just you. So that's your personal relationship. Nobody else can talk to him for you. I totally believe in the fact that you could be spiritual now. Like, you can have a personal relationship with somebody that's higher than you, but going to a pastor or going to a deacon or going to somebody else to pray for you because they're more powerful or whatever, they have a deeper connection. That's actually a slap in the face. Jesus died
for y'all for y'all to be able to have your personal relationship with God, and you're not even exercising that right because really, I don't even really think people believe in God for you. I don't. I think they will say they do. I think they do, but I don't think they really do.
They say it, some people say it and stuff like that to not be ostracized and stuff like that from whatever little safety net that they have with everybody else. And like, my eyebrows have always gone up. Like, I always fold my arms and stuff like that when I'm at someone else's church and I hear the word prophet or prophetess and stuff like that. Like, a great example, the young lady I was dating, this prophetess came over to me, and she put her hand on my shoulder when we was at church, and I had my arm folded like this, and that bulldog look out his head on my face. I kind of looked up at her like, first of all, why you got your hand on me and I ain't tell you to touch me?
For real.
And then she said, the spirit over here is very strong. Like, he has a very, very strong wall built up and around, and this man is extremely masculine, and she just going on and on. And I'm sitting here looking, and I'm sitting there saying in my mind, like, yeah, bitch, I don't know you. Get off me. Like, why are you touching me? And it's, to me, sometimes it's a dog and pony show. A lot of people con artists. Some people have become masters at human emotion and human intelligence, social intelligence, and they just try to manipulate and control people.
That's really what it's about. Religion, that's the biggest tool, the most powerful tool to manipulate people.
I want to encourage people that are watching this. I want to say the first thing is when it comes to politics and religion, there's the reason people don't want you to talk about it is because you have to start thinking. That's the first thing. Because you ask somebody politically, are you a Democrat or Republican? Why are you a Democrat? Because my mama was and my daddy was. You ask people the same question about church. Why are you a Christian? Because my mom and daddy was. How does that relate to you now? Why are you living that same thing? Because they had to go through their own journey too. Like, why are you just doing it because they were doing it? You don't have to keep on the family thing if it doesn't resonate with you.
That's in all facets of life. Like people do what and like the thing about traditionalism, because we was talking about that in our last podcast. I just want people to let traditional ideas and values go. We don't live in those times now. Things are not how they were back in the day when your grandma, your great-great-grandma or whatever was alive. It's not. A lot of the things that we were taught by our parents do not apply to things that we go through now.
Not at all.
They do not apply. The reason why a lot of us are so stuck in certain situations are because we would not let that go. We got to learn how to deal with the society we live in now. Things are completely different. Nothing they taught us, like all of us are going through these journeys and have to unlearn things, relearn things, and figure things out. And that's because it's changed so much. Like you cannot apply those old values and principles and stuff like that to what's happening now. And especially when it comes to like relationships and stuff like that, and like financial, we talk about being the providing, all this stuff and stuff like that. Like it's hard to put that pressure on one person's shoulders in this day and time.
I hate it when somebody people bring up, well, I miss the old days. I wish things were like the old days. And I bring up, so you mean when the man was in control? You mean when we couldn't vote? Are you want to go back when there was slaves? Because which part of history are you talking about? What are we going back to?
Right.
What do we need to be going forward? Like people want to act like progressive is such a bad word. It's not. Progressive means going forward. We are not looking back into this. No, we need to learn from it, not reenact it over and over again, because generations were stagnant for a while. 2 generations after slavery, we're still doing the same things that the slaves were doing. Like, this same, the whooping and all of that come from the slave. Nobody wants to question anything. Start questioning stuff.
It's like y'all, they always the older generation, they get mad at us because we question everything. And it's like y'all didn't suffer a lot. Like we definitely are still suffering. Not much has changed when it comes to the way we're treated still. So what are you talking about? We haven't gone through a lot. Yeah, we probably wasn't directly impacted by slavery, but we're still being impacted by it. Maybe not directly, but systemically we are.
But what makes me laugh though, what you just said, I keep telling people, I'm like, bro, y'all do realize that civil rights and shit was just like a couple decades ago. Like
exactly,
it wasn't last. It wasn't a year before last. Like it literally was your grandma and her friend sitting on the porch drinking sweet tea. Like it's just
it's even closer to home for me because my dad grew up in segregation. My dad he told me about having to go to the back of restaurants to get stuff. He remembers the colored only signs. He remembered the white only signs. Like this is people still alive today. Right. That remember this, like it's not that long ago.
But I'm gonna even go one further deep on my father's mother was white and she was married to a dark-skinned black man in South Carolina. My dad and stuff like that told me and stuff like that, like when they went on their honeymoon, they had to go to King Street because they couldn't go no further other than that because nobody knew them.
You went to King Street, bro?
Hey, that's all they could go from their honeymoon, 10 miles away.
and the fact that they're still literally sundown towns to this day.
Oh yeah.
Still like they acting like so much like, yeah, we have more access to things, there are more resources, but we're still treated the same way. Like
the one thing that I do tell a lot of the guys, like I'm gonna tell you something. I'm just being real. I'm getting off topic, but a lot of the guys and stuff who I teach every day, those are going to be some of the most entrepreneurial driven men that y'all ever want to see. Cause like they are so hell bent on stuff like that, on being redeemed for the chaos that they've caused and stuff like that in their communities and amongst their families. Like they want that, like they want to break the cycle, and unfortunately and stuff like that, they're limited by what it is they can do as of right now. But when they come home, oh, it's on and popping. I've met 5 guys throughout my career that were former students of mine who I know directly or indirectly. They have gone on to start trucking businesses, transit businesses, and stuff. One of them is begging hard at the previous institution I was at to come back and actually talk to some of the guys about on starting a business and stuff. That he's getting ready to hit 7 figures with his business.
That's good.
It all started with one. All it did started with one book, a CDL book, and after that, he just became, enamored with it. Then I got another guy and stuff like that. I promise you, if he ever gets out, you're gonna see him on the cover of cover of GQ magazine talking about real estate. Like he's a genius when it comes to real estate. He said, "Yo, Kennedy," he from Philly. He said, "Yo, Kennedy, I like you, so I'm gonna show you something." I said, "Man, what you gonna show me, man?" So he showed me how to take a split level duplex and break it down and stuff like that into 4 apartment buildings and stuff like that. And he just did it right there. He did it right there on the spot, like it was nothing. He said, "There you go, Kennedy. God bless you. I'm out." Like, like we got some genius guys locked up getting ready to come home. And I don't want to add to the turmoil with them. I just want to be the one and stuff like that to say, "Hey, look, fellas, y'all can do it." I'm not here to, it, but you got some people who don't like growth. Some people don't like change. Some people
which goes against our natural instincts.
Exactly.
Evolution is innate. Yeah, y'all are touching and holding on to those traditional values that don't matter now. Like, we look,
it's all good. Go ahead.
We still being treated the same way, but we live in a different society. Like the things are not the same. Like you see people scramble on the internet, scrambling, talking about some poly relationships so they can get those 4 or 5 income households. They ain't fooling nobody. It ain't about no it ain't about no relationship. They want somebody they want to bring in some money. They want people who gonna be able to work and bring in money.
And then people want to talk about that. I could bring that back to religion too, where people want to, especially in the church, want to talk about, oh, that's not of God. But every single king mentioned in the Bible had concubines, a whole lot of them too. You want to talk about David, a man after God's own heart. Well, David decided to send somebody, this wife, her husband, to the front line to die.
How many didn't Solomon have? A bunch of them, ain't he? How many? Was Solomon had a bunch of wives, but I feel like the reason why, because imagine if more people started getting into poly relationships and like they start coming together, they building this family of people, everybody contributing to that junk. That would help so many people. It would help so many people, and the government don't want that.
They don't. So they keep pushing the religion. That's why it's in God we trust. Every single person that we've had, it wasn't even a big thing for a Catholic to be president, but every single president we've had has had some link to the Christian faith in one way or the other, because they want to keep pushing this thing. And I think about one thing before we close out is like back in the day, especially in our community, it was seen as a thing when Black people started wearing jeans and stuff. Like singers and stuff like that. If you look at, like, I don't know if you know who Fred Hammond is, but they were talking crap about him, and I remember this. Like they were saying, "No, they the devil. They got jeans on."
What did they do? They do that in holiness churches too. They got a dress code.
It's like, what part of the Bible says wearing jeans is you going to hell because you wore jeans?
They be worried about the wrong things. That's the point. Like all this stuff y'all be worried about.
Or the girl come into church with a short skirt on, you gonna cause all these men to stumble. Why don't you talk to the guys and tell them to stop looking at these women? Cause for me, it don't matter what you got on. That's not gonna cause me to stumble. It's not gonna cause me to do anything I don't want to do because she got a short skirt on. I don't care.
You about to tell me these niggas ain't stumbling into some coochie on the regular?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, get out of the way with that. They stumble every night, every day.
My favorite line, I had a relative say, Brandon, you don't cut that out, you going to hell. And I said in front of my mom, dad, and everybody, well, how the fuck you know? Like, how do you know? God personally come down and
you done been there before.
Right. But I can help people. Like, man, people weird. Like, when we were talking about that stumbling, I'm like, okay, she got on a skirt. Like,
niggas be stumbling anyway.
Right. I think about my daughter, she's trans, and one of the houses that she was in, the lady was an old church lady and was telling her she going to hell every day. You just the worst person ever. You going to hell. And then she said something to the lady, and the lady was just like she said she was gonna hurt her or something, and she said, if you do something to me, I'll push your ass down the stairs. You're gonna end up right in hell with me. I was just like, I can't even be mad at that because this lady keep poking at you because she's using the Bible to
their favorite thing to say. You an abomination before God. And what are you?
Exactly. That's not how God operated. The Jesus that we talked about, he was chilling with the sinners. He was talking to them. So
I had a cousin who was getting picked on and stuff like that in the church, and I call him my cousin, but we was good friends, and everybody knew he was gay. And this lady just kept poking at him. And he just bust out and told her one day in the yard, you keep it up, I'm gonna fuck your husband.
I mean, for real, you can't keep picking at these people like that and using the Bible as your cover for you being a bigot.
God don't like this, God don't like that. And y'all ain't never talked to that nigga ever. And I know you haven't.
Right.
To know what he like and don't like.
And another episode, I want to touch on this a little bit, how everybody's saying, well, it's a whole agenda to demasculate the man.
The gay agenda.
Yeah, it's the gay agenda. Like, do you realize either you gay or you not?
And you know what's crazy? I feel like that whole that group of men, that group of black men, a lot of those values that they push, that they claim are pro-black, are not at all. They come from white men. A lot of the way they think come from white men. Because I had a conversation with one of my cousins. I think Brent, I don't remember if you was on there when we was doing like the pre-podcast stuff. My cousin Bubba, and he was like, yeah, I know. And he said the comedic the comedic people, whatever, like they talked about, some men having more feminine energy and some women having more masculine, and them basically practice being gay or LGBTQ plus. But he was like, he don't have anything against that, but he was saying it's a problem when you start changing your sex. And I'm like, how you going to acknowledge that this is something that has been in our culture for like ever? Because you ain't about to tell me that we just now getting like, I don't believe that for a second, because sexuality is also innate. It's something that we don't even have control over. But
you study history and look at like the hieroglyphics and stuff like that on the walls and stuff like that, like they got all of that shit. All of this is not.
It ain't new.
It's not new stuff. Like, I remember the first time I ever figured out what a trans person was watching anime. When I saw Rurouni Kenshin, and I was like, oh, okay. Remember at the end when they was in the town and transgender, but she was cutting ass. She was a badass.
Actually, there's a lot of transgender characters in a lot of anime.
I know some transgender people and stuff like that will knock your fucking teeth out. They ain't nothing to play with.
Exactly. I know a lot of people like that too. They just as hood as you, and it's just like, oh, the perpetual thing. oh, the gay people are soft.
Yeah,
I
because
know a whole. Go ahead.
I saw somebody ask a question. It was this transgender woman, I think, on TikTok, and then somebody was like, "Yeah, all that stuff or whatever they be talking about is cute, but be for real. Y'all wait and leave them around your kids, nigga. You the nigga that we shouldn't leave around our kids because." First of all, the person who is always bringing up that stuff is the one who is the problem. Why are you always sexualizing every situation?
A book that about that was written by R.E.A.L, and it was called From Niggas to Gods. And in that book and stuff like that, he spoke on that about black men being intimidated and stuff like that about gay people and all that. And I've never ever felt that way about any of it. You know what I mean? Like they are some of the dopest people I ever met and hang out with and stuff like that ever in my lifetime. And I'm toxic masculinity, I guess, on certain situations, but they're some of the most dopest people. I don't believe in condemning and stuff like that a group of people just because
a lot of that agenda they talk about though is they forced the men to sleep with each other back during slavery. So okay, if you want to talk about that, they also forced the mom and the son to sleep together. They also did a whole bunch of other You want to talk about that though? You act like people wasn't gay in Africa before we got here.
Been like this is just the very beginning, and in all cultures, because I see it's now you have. I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, a Native American. I don't know exactly what tribe they were fighting because in that culture they were trying to I guess the word excommunicate, kick them out of the culture and stuff like that for being gay and stuff. That stuff has been going on forever. Like you can find it. Like people sit on the internet and they listen to these black activists and stuff like that talk about this stuff, and then they just internalize it and then repeat it without doing no research. Like that thinking and a lot of stuff that black men think comes from white men.
Exactly.
And they push it off as pro-black, and it's not pro-black.
You just pushing the same European agenda that everybody else is.
Exactly. You helping them.
I got a story about that. I had a friend, and he was talking about Alexander the Great was one of the most dominant conquerors and stuff that of all time. I said, yeah, he was. Then he went on to make derogatory comments and stuff like that, saying, yeah, he didn't put up with none of that punk shit and all of this. And I looked at him and was like, he had a boyfriend, right?
It's crazy. Like back then, these men were wearing dresses, get their nails painted. They looked better than the women a lot of the time back then because it was a sign of like royalty, of like you being great, you being a leader, like them being like them niggas basically. Now when they see people doing that, oh, that nigga soft because he got his nails polished. Right, and I'm just like nail polish doesn't change you. I've been wearing it most of my life. It hasn't done anything to me. I don't know what you mean by that.
I don't think that there's anything that's that you could just put in the box. I can't put myself in a box either. I used to think that way, that I can't do this if I'm a man. Who said though? Who said I can't like this? Who said I can't do this because I'm a man? Like everybody else is. Go ahead.
I got called gay by a woman because I got a thing for plants. I love plants and I love flowers. Right. I shit you not. And she called me gay, and I was like, baby, I'm from the country. Every dude that I know either done a garden, got flowers. And I was like, where are you from?
Like that's a non-negotiable for Boonie. You got to know how to grow some food because I grew up around men that did that.
Right.
It reminds me of this Twitter post I saw where it was just a string of stuff. If your man orders an appetizer, he gay, you got to worry about that man, sis. If he crosses his leg, I was just like, what? What is it? If he eat the dessert too, then there's something wrong with him, girl. Like,
shit, that's some stupid shit. I'm getting the appetizer, the entree, and motherfucking dessert.
And then talk about like femininity too. Like, I'm for real. One of the most attractive things that a girl could do on the first date to me is eat all your food that we get. Like eat the whole. It was good, right? We gonna talk about this. You know what I'm saying?
I done lost because my appetite is small. I cannot eat all my food.
Man.
But I'm gonna take it home and eat it later.
I just don't want people to feel like you have to do something to fit into a box.
Yeah, it's
So
weird.
think for yourself. These religions are teaching you not to think for yourself. You need to think for yourself.
They teach conformity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
And
Conformity.
people are comfortable with that because then they don't have to deal with what they gotta do to when you building that relationship with God, your personal relationship with God, you can't blame that preacher when you doing stuff that you know goes against who you are. Because really, building your relationship with God is pretty much just you going within yourself and figuring you out.
If
You
you would
know,
have asked me years ago, would I ever consider anything like this? No, but it took my mom passing away for me to really come to the realization and start thinking more, because one of my cousins, I told you that yesterday, she was a staunch atheist. Like, her name on Facebook and everything was a heathen liberal. She was against anything religion. And then she called me one day and said, your mom came to me. And it was a spiritual thing. And I was just like, okay, it gotta be something if you thinking that way, like, and I started to rethinking things for myself. Like, what if the way I was raised was not right? What if this Christian faith is not right? I feel like there is a God, but is he who I was taught who he is? Because these people are not matching the energy that they talk about. So, and I had a big problem with that too. The people in church talking about other people, you not living the life. A big thing for me was I was homeless and I ran into somebody else and they said, oh yeah, they saw you out there on the streets. And I said, what did you say? I was like, dang, that's messed up. I'm gonna pray for them. My thing is, for me, if somebody tells me that somebody I know is homeless on the streets, let's go. Let's go talk to them and see what we could do for them. Are they okay? Not, oh, I'm gonna pray for you. That's not gonna help me. I need some food right now. Your prayers is not gonna put no food in my stomach tonight.
Could have at least gave you some money or something.
Right, like you saw me though. That's the thing.
That's
like
what we was saying. Around here, we don't really have a whole lot of homeless people because everybody live with their family. If you ain't got no place to go, you staying with your family.
Even if your family don't fuck with you like that, they'll find
It gonna be somebody. Yeah.
They'll find trailers to put you in or something.
I wish it was more people like that, especially in California, because there is so many just crazy stories where, and my mom kicked me out because her friend told her to do that. Pretty much, it was just like, yeah, I showed my kids some tough love. I put them on the street. Only thing you did was taught them how to go more into the lifestyle you were trying to keep them from.
Right. What do people think that that's gonna do though? Like, what do parents think that kicking their kids out is going to do?
I don't know, but I was,
it's the weirdest thing.
I just was so blessed because my mom and dad always got an open door policy. You know what I mean?
Same.
Always got an open door policy. Like right now, I was supposed to go home back to South Carolina from Atlanta today. My dad called me, fussed at me. Where are you? I said, I ain't hit the road. There's something happened. I had to handle it. He said, well, you could at least call me and let me know you was all right. My bad, Pop. I'm sorry. He's like, don't let it happen again. And he on the phone.
That is the type of parent I will be. I refuse. There is nothing that you could do to make me hate you, because I at a certain point, I'm gonna start asking, once you start acting up, okay, we need to start tackling this. The worst thing I'm gonna do is take your ass to your room.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna put you out on the street so you could get worse. But
I understand that, like, the reason why a lot of Black parents weren't able to raise their kids in that way was because they were forced to do a lot of stuff that they it kind of took them away from it. Like, you got to work, everybody got to work, you got to work hard, especially if you're a single parent. You got to work, you don't really got time to spend with your kids and stuff. So when they misbehave, the easiest thing for you to do is beat them. However, this is not that no more. We living in different times now. You need to a lot of people don't even know their kids. You need to get to know your children. You need to understand why they do certain things. Like, for instance, whenever I'm interacting with kids, I really pay attention to their eyes, their body language, the things that they say to me. And I don't treat them like they're under me. if I gotta get eye level, if I gotta get on the floor and play with you
That is
and all of
so
that stuff,
important. That is
I'm
so
gonna do
important.
that because I want to figure you out. But you have a lot of parents, they ain't even interested in getting to know their children. They just want them to listen. How do you expect a child to listen to you when you don't even care about getting to know them? You don't even know who they are.
A black parents, one of their favorite phrases is to stay out of grown folks' face.
Right.
Like,
when I talk, but man, look, when I talk public education and stuff, and I used to have these IEP meetings, my kids would come to me before the meetings, the ones that were self-aware, and they would have, look, Mr. Kennedy, please just let her talk. Please don't say nothing. Please don't, you know what I mean? They were basically giving me the rundown on their parents.
Their parents.
And when I got there and stuff like that, I went, oh, you one of them. Like, it just amazes me. Like, it just amazes me. Like, when you said stay out of grown folks' business, you got fucking kids got better damn sense than adults.
exactly.
They can teach you something if you actually talk to them.
I was guilty of making a comment to Boonie. What was this? It was a couple of months ago, and Boonie. No, it was last year sometime, and we were talking about I would prefer having boys over girls.
Oh yeah, Jesus Christ.
And Boonie made the comment and stuff like that. She said, "Nah, you just want the boys because they may be easier for you, and it's lazier and stuff like that. You know, with them more so than it is with the girls." And I said, "Yeah, you're right. You got a point." So I started digging into why I said that. And when I finally figured out the answer to it, she was right. It was just laziness on my part. It would literally.
Most people say that though. Most people be like, "I want a son first, or I would rather boys than girls." Like that from the very beginning. You and your mama egg, and she already saying she don't want you, bro. That translates to your kids. I don't care what nobody say. The way that you think and stuff like that, that translates to your kids, and so you find out you got a daughter, and like you're a little mad about it because you ain't got your son, so you gonna have a hard time. That child is gonna feel every moment of you not wanting them there.
Prenatal care, something serious.
They're gonna feel it.
I think I'm one of the only people I know that since I was a kid, if I was ever to have kids, I always said I wanted a girl first.
Same.
I want a girl. But it's like, what about the boy protecting the girl? I said, why my daughter can't protect my son?
as a daughter who did that, who was pretty much like my brother's mom, but at the same time I wasn't. I had sense enough to separate that. Like, yeah, when my mama not here, I'm in control, but I'm not their mother. I'm still their sister. I'm not gonna treat them like I'm their mother. I'm still gonna treat them like they're my brothers. Like I'm not trying to, have a power trip and mama left me in control and listen to me. I was not like that. I did a lot of things with my brothers. I just made it fun. Like, we're gonna play these games, we're gonna do this or whatever. Like, and really that's how you build bonds with your kids.
Exactly.
Being a child, basically. Even though I was a lot older than them, but not too much.
I think that's why I have such a good relationship with my nieces and nephews. And people say kids love me because I'm eye level with them a lot of the time. Let's talk, and I'm really hearing them out. I'm not, no, that's wrong. Tell me, talk to me. Yeah, I understand, because you forget that you was a kid one time. Did you forget that the struggle is real and it's even harder now with social media? Like,
right. Like I was telling about them, my nephew was like, my mama said we can't say lying because that's a bad word. I said, no, it's not. I said, in fact, your mama is lying by telling you that that's a bad word. She's lying to you.
Funk was a bad word in my house.
Really?
I don't know if you remember that old song in 90s.
Funk.
It was Funk Defied.
Oh, I remember.
And I was singing the song, right? Funk Defied. My mom, what'd you say?
Why?
She said it is too close to fuck. I couldn't say that, or I couldn't say fart either. Fart was a bad word growing up. I had to say.
My mama hated liar. I used to be like, she used to be going off on my brothers. Don't you say that word? I'm like, bruh, why does it bother you so much that they said that you lied? Because you calling me a liar or whatever, but maybe you did lie. Maybe in his eyes, you lied. What's so bad about that? It's not a bad word. What is with Black parents and that word is the weirdest thing. They act crazy over that word.
Lie.
And I used to stay on her, challenging her, like, bro, why do you think like that? Why does it bother you so much?
Before
And
we
you know
get
what? But what's so crazy when Boonie was talking about challenging parents and stuff? I challenge mine all the time.
Me
And
too.
they don't like it, but they respect it because they know I'm telling the truth.
My mom
Had
just used to me now.
Yeah, like I had an incident with my sister, and with all my siblings and stuff that they do, especially when it comes to me, they'll start something with me. I'll check them on it. They get in their feelings, and they'll run to them, thinking mom and daddy will come check me, but I end up checking them too.
Well,
And then,
before we get too far off the topic, we can finish this conversation off the podcast. It's getting interesting. I want to ask you guys have any thoughts about the religion topic before we get out of here? Final thoughts?
The only thing I have to say is, like, y'all really have to get out of the groupthink mindset and that this is how I was raised, so this is what I'm gonna do mindset, because it does not apply to modern day society. It doesn't. I know y'all love holding on to traditional values and stuff like that, but it hinders you. And y'all should just think for yourselves, start thinking critically about everything that goes on in your life, and you will see a major shift in your life when you do that.
What about you, Brent?
man, you got to get out and travel and go see the world. That's the only way. That's the only way that you really can get out of that mindset, that groupthink mindset. What Boonie was talking about: travel, explore, go see other things. Because if that's all you know, that's what you're going to be consumed with every day. Like surround yourself with other surround yourself with people who are unlike you. There's nothing.
Right.
There's nothing wrong in sharing space with people who have differences. Like I do it, and I'm a Christian, and I'm just as happy as I can be. With no ill will, no ill will against anyone, and I'm having a great time and stuff like that in my life, especially with the person I've become, not who I used to be. And that's all I got to say.
I want to say, don't be afraid to think for yourself. Don't be afraid to go on your own journey, like Brent was talking about. Explore everything. And if your journey just so happens to lead you back to where you started in Christianity, that's okay. But don't sit there and just say, I'm a Christian because my parents are. I'm a Muslim because my parents are. Figure out this thing for yourself. It's okay. You're not going to get in any trouble, even if this, the God that you worship, he's not going to get mad at you because you explored the world. You're not going to get in trouble. He's not going to punish you because you started exploring other things. It's
Don't
okay.
allow them. Y'all going to hell.
You do not have to be afraid of God. Love God. Instead of being afraid, love God. You can't do both at the same time. So it's either or.
And guys, this has been another episode of the Raw Educated Analysis of Life podcast. Look us up on Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, Apple Music, all the things. We there, y'all. We worldwide. What DJ Khaled said, we global, y'all. We global. I love each and every one of you that watch this. Peace.
Bye.
Stay in school.
Sometimes, man, you gotta make something out of nothing. You gotta believe in yourself.